but we take that data to start to help our customers get a little more educated on where they're most likely to succeed. And it's hugely important as you enable your sales force.
Microsoft's purpose is in service of your purpose.
And again, 2024 is the year that partners come out as the leading edge of the spear on finding this buyer intent.
You show up to every meeting and demonstrate why you are relevant.
Every day, I have to force myself to make sure that I'm taking one step ahead in terms of my own learning.
That flywheel of success is where you will build momentum, and that momentum will continue, and then you feed into the other systems to say, this is what we did. This is how we did it together.
Welcome back to the Ultimate Guide to Partnering. I'm Vince Menzione, your host, and I'm on a mission to help leaders like you achieve your greatest results through successful partnering. We've been talking about these tectonic shifts we've been seeing in our world and in our lives, and the role and dominance of the hyperscalers and this cloud go-to-market moment. And now I have two leaders in the room from a valued partner, Tackle.io, for discussion on this amazing transformation we've been seeing and how cloud go-to-market is evolving today. I want to welcome Erin Figer, the VP of Co-Sell.
Hi, Vince. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. And Sanjay Mehta, Chief Operating Officer at Tackle.
You just promoted me. Thank you very much. I love that, Vince. But I'll take the promotion. And glad to be
Chief
in
Cloud
your,
Officer.
Thank you,
Sorry,
buddy.
Chief
Glad to be
Cloud
in your
Officer.
studio. It's very
so
it's
great to
amazing,
have
man.
you. You know, we just finished a live event here yesterday, and it was so great to have you both here in Boca Raton. We covered several areas, cloud go-to-market, marketplaces, conversations around co-selling. Both of you are experts in this space, and you've been around this journey with us for so long. And I was hoping for a deep dive today, really spending some time here on this amazing topic. We've seen $1/3 of $1 trillion in durable cloud budgets by the three hyperscalers, just an amazing growth. 5 ISVs reached $1 billion total transactable last year, right? That's a volume. We might see one get to $1 billion in 1 year.
That'd be awesome.
John Yonke, your CEO, said yesterday. Microsoft saw an 80% increase in $100 million cloud commitments quarter over quarter, just this past quarter. And the role and the moment of marketplaces. We had Microsoft in the room. Microsoft is finally leaning in on marketplaces. So Tackle was built in 2016, evolved in 2016, really at the forefront of marketplaces from the very beginning. You've been leading the charge. You just finished your own event last month in May. Yep. Really interested in this deep dive conversation with you around this topic. Sanjay, over to you first. I think, we've had a rich conversation with John Yonke, your CEO, about marketplaces. What are you seeing now that you didn't see before?
Yeah, if you roll back to 2015, 2016 when this started, getting up and listed in a marketplace was just part of your cloud provider strategy. Right? I want to go to market with AWS or Microsoft. I'll get a tile up in the marketplace. And honestly, ISVs didn't have a lot of plans. They just wanted to get their shingle up and act cool until they're bored. Hey, we're a cloud company. We're a SaaS company.
Brochureware,
yeah. Right? And like a lot of partnerships, unfortunately, back then. But now it's a boardroom conversation around how can I make this the most sales efficient channel? And particularly as the market has become a little bit tougher economically, and as cloud transaction fees have come down from all of the major cloud providers, now CROs and CFOs are looking at this and saying, I can make my deals go faster. I can tap into budgets that already exist. I can tap into legal agreements that already exist.
Yeah.
I can streamline vendor onboarding. So the conversation has totally changed from
days
a nice to have to a
must
have.
Lowering the days outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Quicker payments.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see how this has evolved. And I believe even Microsoft was on the sidelines up until this past year, right? And they've leaned in a big way. We had Jason Rook leading the conversation with you and another one of the Microsoft leaders yesterday around the topic and what partners need to do differently than that they haven't done before. And co-selling plays an even more important role here. And Erin, you and I have a long history working together. I mean,
we sure do.
For those who've been following along our journey together, you've been on the podcast, an early guest on the podcast. We did a lot of co-selling workshops back in the day when I first came back out and Ultimate Partner was reignited. You led a session on effective co-selling and operationalizing co-selling. And now that we've got marketplace offers in market, that's the next step, right? We need to get to the buyer. And the best way to get to the buyer is through co-selling with the organizations to get there.
Right.
Tell us how you think about that.
Yeah, it's really great to see now that we've been at co-selling for a while. Initially, people took co-sell as I'm going to connect a seller with a cloud seller, and it's this like seller to seller co-sell motion. So now we're at this point where people are like, no, they're thinking bigger about co-sell, and really that when you decide to co-build and bring that solution to market, how are you going to co-sell in your partnership? How are you going to co-sell with the people through the marketplace and with the ecosystem that you're now a part of, that you could also be co-selling and supporting this solution holistically in bringing that to market? So co-sell is people are now looking at it much bigger than just this co-sell thing I do with two sellers.
Yeah. Your CEO, John Yankee, talks about like meeting the customer where they buy. And we had Jason Rook with you, and then also on the podcast recently talking about this as well, that there's an influence strategy. There's the 7 seats at the table. Like, it's not just an ISV and a hyperscaler together going to the customer. There are all these other influencers. There might be a channel partner who's actually transacting, maybe has a relationship with the customer. There might be other ISVs involved, security solutions. And that's to your point.
Right. And so now you can flip it and say, instead of like an ISV thinking about one customer and co-selling with the cloud provider, they can now say, we meet the buyer where they're at. And how does that buyer want to buy through the marketplace? But who are the other players? And now it's really, I've got to make sure I'm co-selling with all of those 7 people who are influencing that buyer, that I'm also co-selling with them. And we're all collectively working on driving this solution that we know is going to help our customer with their problem. And it's going to drive the cloud's metrics that they care about, the channel partner that you're working with metrics. You might have an SI partner doing your services work for you that ultimately makes your product get used and implemented, which is what the ISV wants, right? So co-sell, you have to think about all those 7 players. And when you put that opportunity in, how are you going to connect with all of those different players now that are supporting that opportunity or supporting that customer? So
you lead the co-sell practice, right? And you work with a lot of these leading organizations, leading ISVs on this strategy. How do you do this more effectively? How do you coach them on this?
Well, we launched a maturity model, which really helps because we have to figure out where you're at in your journey. Like, are you in the starting off and like just getting started and establishing the foundation? Are you in building adoption? Are you driving adoption, or are you scaling adoption? So once we can understand where the partner is in their maturity, then we can look at what is the solution and how are you trying to go to market with skilling up your people, with your processes, with implementing technology to support you operationally, your partnership. So there's many different points that we look at inside of your overall maturity. And then we come in with consultative support and best practices to say, okay, we're going to help you go from here to here now based off of where you're at, your solution, and how you're trying to bring that to market.
How do you look across their ecosystem approach?
So when you are looking at your solution, you're trying to say in there, not just your cloud partnerships, but what are the other partnerships that you are trying to create in your channel strategy? And then how are you engaging with them? And yesterday, PartnerTap was here and one of your sponsors.
Yes.
And we really love PartnerTap's technology because it enables you, as we start to co-sell and we identify, say, a use case scenario or a specific area that we want to start to share opportunities. Then using a tool like PartnerTap to say, okay, these are where I have opportunities, but where do we have continued customer alignment around this use case or around this sales region or territory or industry we're trying to go to market in? And they help fill in that visibility to like, here's the other accounts that you guys have in common or could support, and bring in inbounds to fill out your co-sell audience, your co-sell customer base around that particular solution or use case scenario.
Yeah, and Cass was on our panel, from CEO of PartnerTap, was on our panel yesterday for that conversation. And So that's replacing all the spreadsheets that we normally operated on before, right? We would
And
take
you're
our
starting
account
to
lists
engage, like you can actually activate a co-sell strategy in your channel now. So like we have this co-sell strategy with our cloud providers, but now using that and Partner Tap, we can actually build a more holistic co-sell strategy that enables us to bring in all of our partners around one opportunity.
I love that. I love
right?
that.
We're
In a
actually
very
starting
simplistic way.
We're starting to drink our own champagne a bit at Tackler on this. So we just launched our own ecosystem a couple of weeks ago, and the effort behind that stemmed from as an ISV matured through the model Erin's talking about, their needs became a little bit different. When all you needed was a tile in a marketplace, you could do it yourself. We could do that for you. It was pretty simple.
That's right.
But as you start to move along, we have ISVs that might be in one cloud, but they want to be in another cloud. So maybe they're in Amazon, they want to go to Google. So we'll bring in a partner like Do It to help them SaaSify that application in a different place. Maybe they need reseller services to get to market. In the beginning, marketplace was going to kill the channel. Now we figured out the channel is actually a huge benefit for going to markets. They might reach out to a Presidio or a WWT in the AWS world. In the Microsoft world, maybe they need go-to-market resources. So they'll tap somebody like a Transcends. So we're starting to look at the journey and saying, what kind of partners do we need? Because we can't do it all, to slot in the right experts at the right time to really help somebody accelerate their revenue curve.
Yeah, you're spot on. You mentioned a couple of things. Firstly, you can't do it alone. We all know that, right? Partnerships are important to everybody, even those of us in the technology side of partnerships. And then the fact that this journey is evolving, and the role of channel we thought was going to kill the channel. No, it's invigorating. It's sparking the ecosystem. It's sparking the channel. In fact, we had people in the room here yesterday from some of the big channel companies that are leaning in on marketplaces and co-selling in a bigger way now today.
And now we have to include them in that co-sell conversation. So how are you going to connect with them and get everybody collectively working around that same use case or that same customer in the spirit of co-selling?
Yeah. And I like to use the term like we're passing each other in the hallway, right? We're all calling on that same client, but maybe we're not showing up at the same time.
Yeah.
So this brings it all together. So we know, oh, by the way, I'm also working on that account, but I'm trying to sell this into that account. And that's where you're effectively helping them get to.
Yeah.
Their whole influence strategy around that client.
Yeah. And we're trying to we have hundreds of customers, so we're thankful that. So we try to be the voice of the ISV back to the cloud. So we've got awesome, not just go-to-market relationships with the clouds, but more importantly, probably product and service relationships. So you can see in marketplaces, we're going from single software vendor selling a single software title on a single deal to a single customer. And that's great, but it's not where we need to be. Like ideally, a customer wants to buy a solution that has multiple things from multiple ISVs, probably wrapped with some services that potentially come from a channel, and might need to buy it with credit terms, or maybe it needs to be metered. So you're starting to see the clouds think about that phenomenon, and it might be 24 months out before it becomes a reality around marketplace. And we think co-sell should be the exact same way. Like you need true multi-party co-sell. Like who's going to register that opportunity? Who's going to get credit? Who's going to get incentivized? So there's really a ton of evolution that needs to happen over the next 12 to 24 months to make this like really tuned for what a buyer wants to buy, how they want to buy, and getting more prescriptive around how to package solutions versus kind of this a la carte sushi menu of like pick whatever you want and deploy it one by one.
Yeah. We had Jay McBain in the room yesterday as well, talking about the channel tech stack, and you're part of that channel tech stack. But they are on islands for a reason, because they're not interconnected today, right? And we need to get that better connection point, those better connection points around all these technology offerings. To your point, maybe 24 months from now, we'll be where we need to be. Nirvana maybe will be. You've been working with some of the largest ISVs. I want to go back on this moment and this kind of this really the evolution of where we are moving from the brochureware to where we are today. $100 billion potential by 2026 is Tackle's call.
Yeah.
Whether we get there exactly or not probably doesn't matter. It's just that this is a huge opportunity. What are you seeing? You work with some of the biggest and the best ISVs that are out there doing this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the first, pick a number, 3,000 ISVs to marketplace were mostly infrastructure vendors.
Yep.
What we're seeing now is more and more business application providers. Salesforce announced late last year that they're teamed up with AWS to go through the marketplace. We do a lot of work with ZoomInfo, so another great business application going through the marketplace. So we're seeing that. The next horizon, we think, is very likely vertical industry applications.
Interesting.
A little more traditional. Those industries move a little slower. Sometimes they sell 10-year deals to utility companies. So just the evolution of that's going to take a little bit of time. You hear about data marketplaces and ML marketplaces. So I think we're really You're going to see a proliferation of the types of things you can buy through these marketplaces, which is going to be a big change. We've seen deal sizes go up. So there are a lot of myths around these things, like it's only really startups selling to small customers. Not true, right? That's also right. The biggest company. It's also the biggest companies in the world, and also the biggest buyers in the world, and all around the planet, right? Marketplace is not a U.S. phenomenon anymore. It's a global phenomenon. The best ISVs in terms of performance are doing 50% in the U.S., maybe 25% or so in Europe, another 25% in ANZ and APAC. So we're seeing that. We're seeing bigger deals. Like in the early days, it was $20,000 transactions, $40,000 transactions. Now we're seeing $100 million transactions.
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
The type of business that's going through is changing. So I think just the validation, even though it's early, we think only about 2% of global B2B commerce went through these channels last year. We think $100 billion might be undercalled in 2026 because we've seen massive acceleration in marketplace throughput. But the validation of this is a channel that's here to stay and to grow, I think is really firmly validated. And now you're seeing more and more vendors jump on.
Yeah. It's astounding to see the growth and how quickly it's
and
happened, right?
I think also like yesterday, I think it was in the Transcend event session where Ashley was talking about you have to also look at your customers and again, going back to like, where are the customers buying? And sometimes those customers aren't buying yet in the marketplace. Like regulatory industries might have challenges. The educational institutions, nonprofits, like, are they really buying in the marketplaces yet? But I think that as the marketplace evolves and addresses some of these challenges that has caused these industries to have such specific buying mechanisms, that the marketplace could become a more universal buying mechanism to then bring, like, if we want to get to all of that B2B software sales through the marketplace, we've got to unlock these other traditional buying mechanisms, contracts, and
government
like how the government agencies buy, right? And you have to make that feasible and possible and universal in the marketplace. And I think that's really the opportunity, is when we can evolve our marketplace to be able to do that for us and take care of that, then the rest of this customer base will start to come there. And we'll start to see more of B2B sales go through the marketplace.
We are thrilled to announce our partnership with InPartner Software,
the world's leading provider of partner management technologies. Serving over 4 million partners globally, InPartner excels in delivering cutting-edge solutions for partner relationship management and partner marketing automation. Their robust platform offers essential tools like program compliance tracking, customizable partner journeys, and comprehensive business planning. These features empower partner teams to swiftly transition from program design to achieving maximum value. InPartner is dedicated to supporting partner ecosystems everywhere and continues to innovate with new modules like Analytics Studio, designed to help track and maximize the ROI of your partner program.
For more information, visit InPartner.com.
So at your event last month, you talked about the data and the underlying data that you've been aggregating now. I want to dive in here a little bit on that point, because between the Coselling platform, Erin's company that was acquired, Core was acquired by Tackle almost 2 years now.
18 months ago.
18 months ago. Wow, that went by fast. And all Tackle's work over the last 8 years?
Yeah.
8 years?
Yeah.
Tell us about the insights that are that's coming from that data.
Yeah, so we announced in December that from the founding of the company until December last year, we saw $5 billion go through our platform. And the vast majority of that was really in the last 2 or 3 years. From December last year to today, we've seen almost another $5 billion.
That's crazy.
The rate of growth is really astronomical.
In just 6 months.
In just 6 months. It's flying. We take that data as well as third-party data we source, demographic data, infographic data, technographic data, and we compile that together, use some ML on top of it to indicate where a customer is most likely to buy. Are they most likely to buy on Amazon or Google or Microsoft? Is it high? Is it medium? Is it low? The reality is most big enterprise companies buy in multiple places because they might do that just to diversify their suppliers. They might do that because they grew through acquisition. But for a bunch of reasons, the biggest buyers
might have certain collaboration platforms underlying and are stitching.
One solution runs better here than there.
That's right.
So we're seeing a lot of that, but we take that data to start to help our customers get a little more educated on where they're most likely to succeed. And it's hugely important as you enable your sales force, right? If you just go to a sales force and say, hey, there's this new way to sell, it's called cloud to go to market, and you're talking to a sales team that's done the same thing for 20 years and beat their number, they're not that likely to change unless you give them a good reason. So we're trying to use data to really power the story. And then our customers, I love customers because they push the hell out of you. Our customers like, what else can you do with the data? So today it's almost a little bit more reactive. Like, I've built my pipeline. I want to analyze my pipeline and make some decisions in the red zone, if you will, from an NFL analogy. Like, I'm inside the 20. Now, how do I navigate to the end zone in the best way?
Yep.
We want to actually figure out, like, on the other end of the field where they got the ball on their own 2-yard line, like, how do you start to look at your ICP, at your ideal customer profile, use tackle data and say, where should I actually, like, how should I execute my plays, right?
I love it.
Where's my pipeline? So we think the data story is, while it's hugely powerful today and we're seeing awesome use cases, we think it's going to evolve a lot for the sales persona. We saw the marketing persona jump in. So we have all this great data. We saw marketers say, oh, I have 6 Sense data that's showing me some buyer behavior on my website and the intent and what they plan on doing. And we can say, you know what, we can pair that up with cloud data. So now when you do an account-based marketing campaign to that buyer, you can actually speak the language of the cloud that they're in. We saw RevOps leaders team up with sales leaders to say, when I do territory design, I can now look at the density of my buyers by cloud and start to think, like, do I go northwest, southwest, or I say, like, this is my Google region, this is my Amazon region, this is, my particular use case region. So our customers are starting to do really amazing things with the data. It's gonna push us really hard to continue to drive that innovation edge. But
how are they consuming the data? I mean, I know you do a lot of work individually with clients on the co-selling methodology, the operationalizing. Yeah. How are other clients taking advantage of the data?
Yeah, we started our journey with the alliances persona, because they own the cloud relationship. But what we found is as revenue goes from like 0 to 2% to 5%, somewhere around 5%, and certainly by 10%, the CRO and the CFO are like, what is that thing? And it's arguable it will be your single biggest channel on the planet that operates consistently, right? You no longer need all these distributors and all these channels that operate in different ways. Like, it's one way to do business, which is hugely powerful. So during that transition, though, a CRO is like, I don't need my people logging in to tackle, right? And I don't want to just continue to expand my deal desk, like, directly for every additional deal or 10 deals I do, I need to add another 1 hour of human capital. So they said, can you pump this stuff into my CRM system? And for the vast majority of our customers, that's Salesforce. Sometimes it's Dynamics or HubSpot or something, but the vast majority of the ISV business runs in Salesforce. So we're now taking all of this data and we're pumping it in an account level. So in the tool the seller's living in, they can say, this is the profile of my buyer.
So you're integrating into Salesforce
directly
platform.
Into Salesforce. Yeah. And then you can initiate your co-sell activity and initiate your private offer activity all within Salesforce. So you don't need to leave the digital tech stack that you already know and love.
Propensity to buy. You can look at underspent commitments and things like that.
So all of those user scenarios you just walked through, like, your marketing team can now engage in this content and start to pull it into their campaigns as they start to build out the audiences that they want to reach for their campaigns using Salesforce. They'll have that as a data point to help them. The great thing too about the data and how you can engage with it is if you think about our maturity model, in every phase of that maturity model, you can be engaging in our data to help you. It just shows up a little differently. In, like, establishing the foundation, it's giving you that compass. Like, how do I get started? Which customers and where? And it gives you more of a validation of, like, these customers with this cloud provider around this solution.
Nice.
And as you move into establishing the foundation, it becomes a tool to really support all of the enablement effort you're doing on trying to get your sellers educated on the solution and how we're trying to co-sell and go to market with our cloud partnership. So that data now supports my enablement effort. It really helps the seller enablement get sticky and get engagement out of my sellers, so that when I go to driving adoption and scaling adoption, I now start to just use this data in building my automation to say, when things look like this and has this data set there and the data looks like this, automatically do these things.
Nice. That's fantastic. What a fantastic value you're providing.
Yeah. And that's data driven.
Yeah.
Right.
So we covered a lot of ground yesterday at our event, and I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted.
It was a busy day.
It was a busy day. Maybe it's just some highlights from each of you on your sessions. Maybe just a couple of points for those who maybe didn't watch the whole 7.5 hours and are just listening to the podcast, driving their cars today, tooling around, or watching us on YouTube. And
Yeah.
I find that people like they want the salient points quick, right? The TikTok moment. Sanjay, over to you. Like, what was the essence of your session? What would you ask our partners to go learn and go do differently now?
I'd say jump on board. Like the road is now paved, which is nice. It's not Autobahn. People know how to drive on it. There are a lot of people who are leaning in the community to help lift everybody else up. So if you're not in, it's not too late. Like there really is 98% of the market still ahead of us. The power of the ecosystem, hugely important. A data-driven approach, hugely important. You don't have to leave your channel behind. In fact, embrace it, bring them along for the ride.
Absolutely.
So those are probably the top 3 or 4 things that we touched on.
And like you said, it's a massive opportunity because it's really only the top 5% of ISVs that are really consuming it at scale.
Yeah, and maybe 10% of the ISVs are driving 80% of the business. Pretty typical stuff, right? And if you think about the overall B2B software market until the really big players show up, and gravity's hard, right? Like you said it earlier, like it's the year of the marketplace for Microsoft. They've got the most sellers, tons of ISVs, a global channel, 90,000 strong or something. But all that gravity also, it makes the barge a little slower to turn. But when it turns, it's going to be really, really powerful.
Yeah. It's a big battleship in a narrow river.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you're going to see as those things open up for more ISVs and as the big ISVs join, you'll see that acceleration from 2% of B2B to 10 to 20 pretty fast. So, and your customers more and more are going to drag you that way. So you can either get out ahead of it and be strategic and make it part of your rhythm, or you can respond when your customer's like, and we see it all the time, like an ISV selling to a buyer, the buyer's like, I need to buy through the marketplace. Then we get the call to say, can we be listed in 3 days because it's June 27th and my quarter's almost over. So we help as much as we can. It'd be nicer to help with a little bit more time.
Yeah. Well, it's always hurry up. How about on the co-sell side? Erin, you had an incredible panel yesterday. I mean, like, wow, what a lot of power in the room. If you haven't watched that session on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, operationalizing co-sell. I mean, the session was spent a lot around Partner Center and kind of demystifying Partner Center. But if you take the topic operationalizing co-sell, to really operationalize co-sell effectively, you have to take a step back and say, what is my product? How does that impact consumption or utilization of the cloud provider? How do I engage my channel? And how does it help drive the things that my channel partners care about? To then say, okay, now how do I align this partnership to my overall company strategy? And then once you understand the strategy part of that, then you can say, okay, here's how we're going to go operationalize that. But just to go in and operationalize and say, I'm going to build this API, or I'm going to connect this widget, and I'm going to start passing all this data, it just creates a lot of noise with not a lot of value and outcomes from that. Or it takes you a lot longer to get to that value and outcome. If you go slow to go fast and take a minute to say, okay, what's our strategy? How does this solution really drive the metrics that matter for all the players involved? And how do I start to co-sell with them? Then operationalizing your co-sell strategy will happen quicker, and the data that you're using will be more meaningful, and you'll get those outcomes and you'll reach that revenue faster.
I always think about the flywheel.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
It's all about the flywheel. Start out small, meaningful, go slow to go fast.
Go slow to go fast.
And then that flywheel goes faster and faster.
Yeah.
Bullets before cannonballs. That's my favorite Jim Collins, bullets before cannonballs.
Yeah.
Well, I can't believe we're at the halfway point of this calendar year, right? Microsoft's going to...
Man, 2024 flew.
I was just wishing you a Happy New Year the other day. It seemed like on text. Any last words of guidance for all of those listening today on how to optimize for their success moving forward for the second half of the calendar year, first half of Microsoft fiscal? We care about the other two as well. But what would you say to them now?
I think in our theme yesterday, we talked about how do you get ready, be ready, and then how do you stay ready? And it's that stay ready.
Stay ready.
It's not a one and done. This entire go-to-market strategy is not I'm going to create this go-to-market strategy. It's beautiful. And then I'm going to put it on a shelf and never touch it again. It is always evolving.
Yep.
And you have to be ready and be ready to constantly evolve and change and stay current and adapt, right? With where the market is going, with how buyers are buying, and who is surrounding your customer and how you're reaching them and co-selling with them to support the overall solution that's going to solve that customer's
you
problem.
reminded me, once you build the plan, you have to apply maniacal focus to it.
You do, maniacal focus.
And then you pivot because things are going to continue to change, right?
But always maniacal focus.
Always
like
maniacal
there's always
focus.
maniacal focus. You're constantly pivoting and just keep growth mindset. Keep learning, keep testing out plausible theories, and just keep evolving.
I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, so I'd say when before coming to Tackle, I was in a cybersecurity company and I actually hired Erin's company to help me figure out co-sell. And one of the things I liked was this concept they introduced called vocalizing your wins, which was all about advertising your success back in your own organization and your partner,
story.
Own your
your
story.
partner organization.
I love it.
I changed that this year, Vince, inside of the company, and I call it Be a Kardashian.
Be a Kardashian.
And I encourage all ISVs to be a Kardashian. And behind that, it is all about ruthless self-promotion.
I love it.
The market's crowded, right?
It
and
is
it's noisy
crowded.
and it's hard and it's tough and it's a terrible time to be in software in the history of software. I still think it's an awesome time to be in software.
It's an awesome time in tech in
So
general.
you got to get your word out there. And
Yes.
you have to do it often. And you need to use it to reach high and wide in your relationship so people know what you're doing and what you're driving. And people automatically think like only about a customer success story. But the other thing to think about is how did that help the cloud provider? What did they not have to do because you did it better or faster or to complement them? So I'm telling everybody to be a Kardashian. It might be my New Year's resolution in 2025 if this goes well, but those are my words.
But I want to add to that for a minute. I mean,
you can't top a Kardashian.
No, but I think it's twofold, right? So we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about how to show up correctly in the tools. You need to make sure that you are showing up correctly in the systems that your partners are in and your cloud providers are using. So there's the data side of it and making sure you show up correctly in those tools, plus the Kardashian philosophy that you have of like making sure you vocalize your wins and vocalize your success, because that's then going to drive them to go look inside their tools. If you're doing the tooling correctly and you're showing up correctly in their systems, the two of those things is really what will boost your brand and make you rise above all the other partners in the ecosystem that are fighting for that attention.
And you might need some help along the way. We had Ashley Vogstad lead that session with the Pinnacle partners, some of three very strong award-winning partners. And she talked about that too. Like you need to build an awesome story that you have to deliver around why you're better and different and why you deserve the success. And in her case, the award-winning partnership.
Yeah.
And then make sure you're showing up in the systems and then make sure that you take that awesome story and you continue to show like how that awesome story came to life in these customers and your success that you're having. So we had this differentiator and powerful story. We showed up correctly in the tools, and now we're vocalizing all those wins to validate that this thing was really awesome.
I just brought it together. You're gonna say get on the scoreboard, right? Get on the cloud provider's scoreboard. I'm gonna get you to dance on the Jumbotron. Both are necessary.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, this has been so much fun. It was so great
to
to
see
have
you.
you both
Thank
come
you
down
for
to
having
Boca.
us.
So great to see you, my friend.
Good to
Congrats
see
on
you.
a great
See you,
event.
sir.
Good to see you,
Thank
buddy.
you so much. It
Great
was so
event.
great to have
Beautiful
you on
studio.
Ultimate Guide to Partnering.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Thanks for your sponsorship, for your friendship, and just so great to have you both here
Thanks,
today.
Vince.
Thank you.
Thank
Get
you.
some sleep.
Thank you. And thank you for following along. And I'm going to get some sleep tonight because it's been a long couple of days here in Boca Raton. Welcome to the Ultimate Guide to Partnering. I'm Vince Menzione. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. And if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button on either Apple, Spotify, or our new YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining the Ultimate Guide to Partnering. Thanks for listening to this episode of Ultimate Guide to Partnering. Hopefully this episode and all the episodes we've recorded are helping you better align your partner strategy to achieve your greatest results. So I want to ask you something. Have you implemented everything you've been learning? And are you now achieving the growth and revenue objectives that you hope to achieve? If not, it's time to take action now. Join Ultimate Partner Experience. We're building the community I've always dreamed about. With UPX, you get access to exclusive industry insights, unparalleled networking opportunities, tons of educational resources, and support from a community that shares your goals. Join us now. Visit our website, theultimatepartner.com, and sign up today.